How's it going, you excellent bunch of bakers? Hope you're having a fine day so far. Welcome back to another video. Today I'll show you how to make delicious meat-filled flatbreads, so let's get in the kitchen and get started. This type of meat-stuffed pita is popular in Middle Eastern cuisine. It is usually stuffed with beef or lamb and flavored with aromatic spices and seasonings. A dip made of yogurt, tahini, herbs and lemon is commonly served alongside these little delicious pockets. This recipe can easily be done with store-bought pita, but you already know we're making our own because it's going to turn out that much better. So let's get right into it. Let's see what we need to make these bad boys. For the pita, we'll need some white bread flour, whole wheat bread flour, water, yeast, salt and olive oil. The filling will involve quite a few more ingredients. I decided to go with ground beef this time. As for the spices and seasonings, I'll be using cardamom, allspice, salt, pepper, tomato paste, paprika, cinnamon, cumin, nutmeg and ground coriander, but you can use any spices that you prefer. Okay, besides the spices, we'll also need some onion and some garlic. For the dip, we'll use yogurt, lemon juice, tahini, which is sesame paste. It is commonly used for making hummus with. We'll also need some chopped parsley and a little bit of garlic, and some salt and pepper for seasoning. As for the equipment, we'll need a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, a temperature probe. We'll need a rolling pin for rolling out the pita. We'll need something to bake the pitas on. You can use a solid tray which you can preheat. The hotter, the better, and a tray like this one would work perfectly fine. But I have something much better, and that is my baking steel, so I'll be using that. And last but not least, we'll need a pan for finishing the flatbreads. A non-stick frying pan will work perfectly for this. Okay, with all the equipment and ingredients out of the way, let's get to it. Let's start by making the filling and the dip, just to get them out of the way. Grab a large bowl, combine the onions, the garlic, the salt, the pepper, the cardamom, the cumin, the nutmeg, the cinnamon, the ground coriander, the allspice, the paprika, and the tomato paste. Basically, everything except the beef. Give it all a good mix, make sure all the ingredients are dispersed evenly. Now add the meat and mash it all together. And you can use any meat that you want. Lamb, beef, chicken, turkey, pork, it's up to you. You'll be the one enjoying it, so make it your own. Okay, once the mix is ready, you can cover it up and leave it in the fridge until it's needed. Or you can divide it straight away into 8 equal pieces. And I did that later on myself. This will make our job easier when we go to fill the pita. To make the dip, grab a small bowl, combine the garlic, the parsley, the lemon juice, add some freshly ground black pepper and a pinch of salt, add the sesame paste, and finally add the yogurt and mix it all together. You can customize the dip too. Use different herbs like mint or coriander. Add some lime juice instead of lemon juice, or add some finely chopped red onions for an extra strong flavor. Anything that goes well with meat will go well here. Okay, now let's start making our dough. My kitchen was around 22 degrees Celsius or 72 degrees Fahrenheit, so I used water that I had just left out at room temperature. I will be cold fermenting this dough, but you don't have to. You can bulk ferment it at room temperature for an hour and a half, giving it one fold halfway through, and then continue as per recipe. I prefer cold fermentation. It fits in with my schedule, and the bread turns out tastier too, and it also makes the dough easier to handle. Or whatever you decide to do. To make the dough, grab a large bowl, combine the water, the yeast, the salt and the olive oil. Give it a quick mix to dissolve the salt and yeast. Add the whole wheat flour, mix until there's no dry flour left. And finally, add the white bread flour, grab your dough scraper and mix it to a dough. It will be slightly sticky, but that's normal. As we ferment it, fold it and shape it, it'll become smoother and less sticky. Okay, do a quick temperature check before we start fermenting. My dough turned out slightly cooler than I wanted it to, but it will be totally fine. Cover it up, let's pop it in the fridge to chill down for 30 minutes. After the first 30 minutes, pull the dough out of the fridge and give it a fold. To perform the fold, wet your hands lightly with water, pick the dough up from the bowl, then fold the sides down and push them back up into the middle. Keep folding it like this and going around a circle until the dough ball is nice and tight. If you are fermenting your dough room temperature, don't wet your hands with water. Dust the dough with flour and perform the fold on the table. After folding, place the dough back into the fridge for the long cold fermentation of 18 to 24 hours. And on the next day, it should look like this, nice and puffy, well fermented. Now we can move on to dividing and shaping. Dust the dough with flour, weigh it, and then divide it into 4 equal pieces. We are making 4 pitas, which we'll later cut in half to make 8 portions. To shape the dough ball, grab a piece of dough, flatten it, then fold the edge over the middle, go around in a circle until you reach point where you started. Then flip it smooth side up again, tighten it against the table, and finally pick it up and pinch the seam together at the bottom. That's your dough ball done. And this is how you would perform the fold if you were bulk fermenting at room temperature. Okay, cover these bad boys up, leave them for the final proof, which should take around 1 hour. During this time, you want to preheat your oven to 240 degrees Celsius, 465 Fahrenheit, fan on. If your oven doesn't have a fan, set it to 250 degrees Celsius or 480 Fahrenheit. Okay, once the dough balls look nice and puffy, they are ready to be turned into some pitas. I like to take a dough ball and dip it in flour, cover it on all sides, and then flatten it slightly by hand and finish it off with a rolling pin. Normally I would make oblong shaped pita, but for this type of recipe, we are better off doing round ones. You can roll them all out and bake them at the same time if your oven is big enough, and if you are confident in your rolling, or you can roll them and cook them one by one. It is always good to do one and see how it turns out, so you can adjust on the following ones. They will only take 3 to 4 minutes to cook. Don't expect a lot of color on them. Okay, once they're ready, stack them up and leave them to cool down slightly. Once it's cooled down, we can move on to filling. And it's very straightforward. Grab a pita, cut it in half. You can use a knife, but I decided to use my pizza wheel, makes no difference. Open the pita up to create the cavity, and then grab a meatball and flatten it. Give it an approximate shape resembling the shape of the pita. Put the filling inside the pita, then place the pita on the chopping board and squish it with the palm of your hand. This will ensure that the filling gets squished into all little holes inside the crumb of this pita. It will not only fuse the two together, but it will also help with cooking the meat quickly and evenly. Okay, that's one done. We got 7 more to practice on. I'm only going to show you 2. Okay, after filling the pita, we need to grab some olive oil and brush it all over the surface. This will give it a nice color as it's cooking, and it will prevent the bread from drying out. Of course, you could pour oil in the pan, but this is a more effective way of doing it. Okay, these bad boys are ready for cooking. Set the pan on medium heat. You don't want it to be too hot. The filling will take around 4 to 5 minutes to fully cook. You want to flip the pita every minute or so. This will make it heat through evenly. If the timer is up and you're not happy with the color of the bread, just keep cooking for longer. I guess they could also be cooked in the oven, but the pan will definitely give it a nicer finish. If you decide to make yours in the oven, let me know how they turned out. But there you have it. That's how you make delicious meat stuffed pita. It turned out to be such a Moorish snack. I couldn't get enough of these things. This recipe will make enough pita for 2 very greedy people. To make more, simply multiply all the ingredients. If you love flatbreads just as much as I do, head over to the flatbread playlist on my channel, where there are plenty more delicious recipes to be found. And if you're into cold fermentation, I have a playlist for that too. So what do you think of this recipe? Have you tried these flatbreads before? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this one, click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.